morning, everybody, and welcome back to the MD Investor Podcast. And today we're going to talk about being brave. Now, this episode is about the courage it takes to actually either chase your dreams or even get started on something. It always seems like it's extremely easy in theory to talk about something, and it's always easy in theory to actually think about having the realization of your dreams. But the extremely hard part is actually being able to obtain them by taking those first steps. And that's where being brave comes in. Being brave is always way easier said than done. And it's in the phrasing itself. It's even in the things that we think about when we think about braveness itself. Right? So imagine the movie Braveheart. It's like you're going up against something that is an uphill climb. It's a difficult challenge. It's something that's going to be daunting, hard, or scary. And you decide to do it anyway. That's the act of being brave, is knowing that what you're facing is either a losing battle, a difficult battle, an uphill battle, or a challenging thing in general. And then you still continue to move forward. That's what it takes to be brave. And being brave is not easy and it's not simple. And sometimes not everybody can do it. So there's some situations where I can't be brave. There's some situations where I have to be brave, but it's very difficult for me. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a perfect example. I hate snakes. I hate snakes very much. And in this case, it makes it to where all my braveness goes out the window. Now, if you're talking about like a scenario where we have, like the giant snake from Harry Potter or the giant spider from Harry Potter, right? Like I would take the spider every time. Doesn't matter how many there are. I would still take those odds because I hate snakes that much. And in this case, when it comes to being brave, I can be brave enough to face the spider, but I can't be brave enough to face the snake. And sometimes in our lives, we have a choice. We have to face the spider or we have to face the snake. And in our lives, those choices boil around what we're doing with our lives and what we're doing in our lives. So again, this show is about, or this podcast is about learning how to invest and understanding how to invest. But the biggest and the hardest challenge is understanding that new things take energy, it takes time. And in order to build wealth and to have energy behind that, you have to be able to pursue and push forward. And sometimes that takes bravery. For example, let's say you're already a physician and you want to learn how to trade. You want to learn how to trade stocks or you want to learn how to invest, and you find out that it costs a lot of money to do so. And then you're going to pay that money to do so, and you get in an argument with your spouse because your spouse goes, "Oh, well, we need this," or "I have loans to pay," or "I need to pay this car payment," or "Why are you wasting money doing something foolish?" You might have the money, it might not even be a problem, but the communication might still be an issue. So instead of learning something new, instead of pushing yourself to the next level, instead of trying to advance your career or advance your life or your skill set, all of a sudden you're stuck because you have to be brave and you have to fight your spouse in order to do something for yourself. And that can be difficult. Now imagine that same situation with anyone in your family or anyone of your friends or anyone that you care about. It takes bravery just to keep pushing forward. Now for myself, it took a lot of bravery for me to talk to my spouse and then talk to my family about moving forward with not wanting to pursue medicine. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hate medicine or anything of that nature. However, there are a lot of restraints to it. I just want to be open ended and be able to help anyone and everyone, and that's not how it works. So if you work in the healthcare field, you know that there's certain restrictions. People need certain insurances. People need certain levels of care. There are certain restrictions to stuff. Like if I want to transfer somebody to a higher level of care and they don't have the right insurance and they won't let me, there's restrictions, there's loopholes, there's red tapes, there's politics, there's admins, there's a lot of things that hinder just the practice of medicine. So you can't fully and authentically do what you want to do without there being restrictions. And sometimes it could get extremely frustrating. Now, when I first started practicing, there were a lot of things that frustrated me. And there were things that frustrated me that I couldn't control. But hey, you know what else? I could control all the situations around what I was doing. So let me give you an example. When I first started working as an attending, I was working at this job and they had a yearly bonus or something like that. I think it was like a $20,000 bonus if you were able to hit their metrics. And some of their metrics were things like if you discharge patients before a certain time, like I think it's like before 11 o'clock, if you get all your discharges done before 11 o'clock and you're able to consistently do that and you hit the certain metrics, you would get a bonus. Great. What they didn't tell me was that it was a team bonus, which means that everybody on the team had to be able to do it. So we had a team of like 6 people or so. I was able to easily hit that metric, enough for 2 people, but other people who've been there longer knew already not to try, so they didn't try. They just went about their day. And this frustrated the crap out of me because I tried super hard. And then we had a revenue based meeting and it stated, hey, Dr. Butler, you're doing a great job. You've actually generated this much revenue. And I think it was close to about 3 million or so. And I'm thinking about how much revenue I generated is about 10 times or almost 12 times what my salary is. So it's about 10 times my salary. So 10 times my salary, and yet because some other people didn't care about the same metrics that I cared about, that I pushed for, that I really tried hard for, that I stayed at work and stayed extra and did all this overtime and did all of these shifts and 20 plus shifts a month and 14 plus days in a row. I've done all of these metrics. I did what you told me to do. I didn't see my family to do these things that, to meet this criteria. And you still didn't give me my bonus, even though I made this much money for you. That was extremely frustrating. And the thing is, I could have stayed in the same location. I could have stayed fighting the same job, fighting the same anxiety, fighting the same depression, being pissed off at my coworkers for not trying and trying to like do less work. So it happens like that, like we had like things where we had revolving admissions, and a lot of times they would skip themselves and give me more admissions and things like that, like just small things to make their life easier and to make my life harder because I was the new guy. It's just what happens. And in this case, I had a choice. I can continue fighting that same snake or I can continue fighting different spiders. Like I had a choice. But in order to make that choice, I had to be brave. I had to say, hey, you know what? I chose to work here. I chose to put myself in this environment and I chose to continue this path. But I don't have to choose, or I don't have to continue to choose to stay in that situation. And most of the times we stay in situations that we don't want to be in, and we stay with situations knowing we already know the end result. And that's what makes it easy. It makes it comfortable because we know the end result. I could have easily stayed there for 20 years or 10 years or 30 years and saved up some money or whatever it may be. I could have just hated every single day of it. I could have been depressed every single day of it. I could have been anxious every single day of it for years and years and years and just dealt with it knowing that I have a regular job, I have a regular paycheck, I know what the end result is going to be. Or I can be brave and face the snake that I don't know and that I don't want to face, which is what I did. So, learning how to invest, learning new skill sets, I started pouring my money from the hospital into other things. So instead of using my money to buy stuff that's not going to be an asset for me, I started investing it in myself. So in this case, I started investing in working out. I started investing in my body. I started investing in my mind, reading books, taking classes. I took class after class after class and course after course on different stocks, on different options, on e-commerce, on trucking, on everything that I wanted to learn because I know that the secret to success has money behind it. It has clues behind it, and they leave information in books where we can all get to the information. You just have to be able to hunt down the information or find the right mentors or find the right people to help you move to the next level. And that takes you being brave. You can chase your dreams and you can fight that snake head on. And it's scary and it's terrifying because there's no guarantee of success. There's no guarantee that what you're going to do is going to prevail. But if you don't give up, if you continue pushing, you continue learning, and you continue growing, the more you learn, the more you're going to earn, the more you're going to be able to have what you want. And when I compared myself to other doctors, which is, I don't recommend you comparing yourself to others, but what I did for myself is I had to look around and see if the people in my stratosphere and the people in my life and the people in my circle, if they were where I wanted to be. And when I looked around, all I saw was burnt out physicians, tired and depressed doctors, exhausted nurse practitioners, extremely tired nurses, and we all had the same ideas. We complained about work, we complained about how many shifts we took, but we always kept taking the shifts. We complained about how tired we always were. We complained about how much time we didn't spend with our family. We complained about everything, and we made ourselves the victim in that situation. And it continues to that day where it's like everyone is still being the victim in your situation. You're like, I hate this job, and I hate my boss, and I hate this, and I hate that. When it's like, when you take control and responsibility and you're brave for your situation and you realize what's going on, then you can face everything head on. Then it's like, you know what? When I think about it, I chose to work here. I chose to work here. I chose to put myself in a situation. And you know what? It's harder than I thought. It's not what I anticipated, but I don't have to tolerate it. Yeah, moving and packing up my family and finding a new job and getting credentialed and all that. Yeah, all of those things are difficult, but I get to choose my level of difficulty. I can choose difficult for a long next 10 years by staying in the same place that I know the end result. There's no room for growth. I'm not going to become the CEO of that hospital. I'm not going to be the CEO of that medical group or that company, or there's no partnership track. I'm just here working. I don't become a partner in the next few years, and there's no ownership involved in it. And if there's no ownership and there's no equity, why am I still here? What am I learning from this job? Am I learning to create and build for my own business? Am I learning how to invest properly? If you're going to learn something, learn on somebody else's dime. So when you're an employee and you're only an employee, you have no ownership, you're not building up to a partner, you're not building up to being able to have equity in the company, then you're just an employee. And if you're just an employee, learn what it takes to be your own boss. Now, I'm not saying you have to run out and go do that, but learn something from where the situation you're in. If you're in a certain situation and it's not producing what you want it to produce, you have to learn from that situation what you can build from. And when I started investing, like when I started investing in myself, that's where you start first. If you don't have the money, that means you have the time. If you don't have the money or the time, that means you're not alive, right? So you have either or. If you don't have the money to start investing, or you have the money and you have no idea where to start by being brave and investing in yourself. Start reading a book a week. I know that might sound like a lot for some people, but in this case, there's Audible, there's different ways to get as many books as possible without you physically reading. So before, I would just physically read books, and it took me time because I'm a slow reader, and it's hard for me to read sometimes. Like, it's hard for me to focus. I'll start reading and then I'll get distracted. But Audible has been a game changer for me because I love to learn and I need that information, but sometimes I'm not able to focus as much as I like. And sitting there and reading can be a daunting task for some people. But in this case, there's other ways. There's apps, there's audio books, there's whatever you need. Read a book a day or read a book a week. And if a book a week is too much, read one book every 2 weeks. If that's too much, start with a book a month and then you'll find out how fast it is, right? You can put something on Audible and put it on 1.5 speed, and all of a sudden, somebody who's reading and talking slow and methodically will be done in a week. Like, now you're done in a week. You got the information, you took notes, you understand what you're trying to get from that book. Move on to the next book. Then all of a sudden you're digesting a book a week, or you're digesting a book every 3 days. And that information is accumulative. It compound effects, just like interest on your stocks and stuff like that. There's a compound effect. And once you own it, having intellectual property is like owning an asset or owning an ATM in your brain, because now you have information that's valuable for other people. And ATMs do what? They give you money on command. And the stock markets can do that. Real estate can do that. E-commerce can do that. All of these things can give you money on demand if you just know the right pin. If you have all this money in your brain, then just enter your pin, and then all of a sudden the money is flowing out. And that's what it takes. You have to be brave and you have to challenge yourself. It wasn't easy to say, hey, I spent 12 years going to get this degree. I spent all of this time and all of this effort and all of this energy doing a career, and I wasn't fulfilled in it. And you can stay in the same career. You can stay unfulfilled. You can stay unhappy, or you can stay whatever it is that you feel like you're not reaching your full potential. And that's where the true depression and anxiety for me came from. Was I wasn't reaching my full potential. Yeah, I was coming to work every day, but I was coming to work, I was doing the same thing. I felt like I wasn't helping as many people as I could. I wasn't doing as much as I could. And then I realized that from a financial standpoint, I wasn't making any headway. Where I started on year one was the same place I ended on year two. Like, where I started on year two, it was the same place. After working there for a year, working 14 shifts to 20 shifts a month, I should have been like stacked in money, but I was just paying off debt. I was paying off bills. I had no furniture in my house. I had just like one couch. I barely had blinds. So I had this new house. I had no blinds. I had like one couch. I had no furniture. My bed was on the floor. And this is as a physician. So imagine like if you're doing this and you're going through life and everything seems like it's expensive and everything is difficult at the level of a physician, somebody who makes like more than 90% of the people in the state or in the nation, then imagine how other people are feeling about it. Imagine how other people are struggling with that same idea. Is because that concept boils down to understanding financial literacy, understanding your budgeting, understanding your investments, and understanding how to grow. And in this case, I wasn't growing. And if you're not growing, you're dead. That's just reality, right? With everything. What happens to viruses when they don't continue to spread? The viruses die. What happens to plants when they stop growing? The plants die. What happens to water when it's not flowing? It becomes stagnant and it carries disease and you can't drink it because it's not of life. When water is flowing and it's clean and it's fresh, it's of life, which is why there's fish there, there's bears there's animals there. Why? Because it breathes life. The same thing with your finances and the same thing with your life itself. If it's not growing, you're becoming stagnant. If you're becoming stagnant, then you're breeding death. You're not going to be happy. And at some point in time, you're going to have a breakdown. Your mental health matters as well. Your mental health, your financial health, your actual physical health, all of these things matter and they take time. And if you have the time to put into yourself, then put into yourself first. Invest into yourself first. But there are times now where things and being brave takes even more energy and more effort. When things are easy and they're comfortable, it doesn't take bravery, it just takes consistency. All you have to do is show up, right? You might hate your job. You wake up and you're like, oh, God, I don't want to go to this place again. They're going to ask me to do this. They're going to ask me to do that. But you still show up. That's not bravery. That's just consistency. You're comfortable with the fact that you already know the demons you're fighting. The unknown, like walking into the chamber of secrets and not knowing there's a giant snake to fight, that's terrifying. But you have to be brave because you can do it. And in this case, being brave is something that is a choice as well. Now you don't have to go physically fight a real snake. That's the beauty of it, right? Because that'd be terrifying. But you have to find the snakes in your life, you have to find the spiders in your life, and you have to look them dead in the face and you have to face them. And you have to say, hey, I haven't been investing and I want to build up. And you talk to your spouse, you talk to your family and say, hey, I'm tired in this job. I'm exhausted in this job. I need a way to refresh myself. I need a way to build up so I can keep going. So even if you love your job and you want to do it for 20 or 30 years and you want to be able to continue to push forward and get through the grind or whatever it may be, but you still need a backup plan or you still need other ideas, you have to be brave and come forward and say, hey, you know what? I know I did this for 12 years. I studied to be a great doctor. I studied to be a helpful doctor, but it's not fulfilling me the way I want it to fulfill me. And I need to build a better life. And when I looked at my colleagues around me, my colleagues were complaining. My colleagues were victims. My colleagues were giving me negative energy, and I was giving them the same negative energy. I was matching it. But what I wasn't doing was saying, hey guys, let's go. This is a great place to be. This is a great, because I wasn't feeling that. And neither were they. But now, when I talk about investing, when I talk about building wealth, when I talk about building a legacy for your family, now I feel that way. And I have the ability to live and move forward positively because now I have a positive insight. That took a lot of bravery because I had to be like, I'm giving up this full time W 2 salary job. And what did I lose? You're like, okay, now I'm going to lose my benefits. I'm not going to have insurance. How am I going to cover the cost of my insurance? How am I going to get the amount to make sure that my family is covered every single day? That's an unknown, and that's scary and it's terrifying. Or I'm investing in these stocks. What if they go down? Or what if I lose my money? But you know what? You trudge forward anyway. Because once you start learning about stuff, you start building your faith and you start stretching your muscles, you start realizing that anything is possible if you're being brave. Now we're rounding about the 20-minute mark, and that's where we want to try to end because in this case, I want everybody to be able to have a good life. And I want you guys to take away, if nothing else, take away the fact that you have to be brave in your life. You have to make the choices that are going to get you the freedom that you want. All right. I'm Dr. Butler. I'm super glad you guys are here. Again, I want to wish you guys all the best. I want to wish you health, wealth, and happiness, and continue to have that good energy, that strong, wealthy energy, and build for yourself and continue to move forward. I'll see you guys in the next podcast.